Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you from the WELT studios. And the penultimate race of the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series season is complete. Christian Rasmussen, a first-time IndyCar winner in the Snap-on 250 at the Milwaukee Mile last weekend. We'll recap it all, plus discuss tons on the 2026 schedule. Very exciting things brewing for 26 and beyond. Some wild, silly season rumors at play as well. We'll get to all of it this episode. Plus, we'll have a special episode dropping after this one, talking with Don Cusick of Cusick Motorsports. Their recently announced alliance and two-car operation in Indy Next for next year as well. We'll chat with him about that and more, so be sure to catch that episode as well. So, Justin, hello.
Hi there.
Hello. Almost.
We were saying before we started recording, if not for Mother Nature, it would have been another likely Pelot victory. I don't know what Fox is going to talk about at Nashville because, they could still sell the Kentai, Foyt, and Unser discussion at Milwaukee. That's out the door now, so...
Kentai Mario. I mean, you have good storylines. You have, is this the last race with Will Power and Team Penske? Obviously, David Malukas thrown in with that. Colton Herta and the rumors we've heard about that.
Which I find far-fetched. I mean,
I do as well.
To it, but
Pelot rumors as well.
Which
same.
Also find far-fetched. We'll
see. And finally, Leader Circle, which I don't think is going to be...
Unfortunately, that's never covered on Fox.
Yeah, it's something we're talking about just because of how much it means to the teams. But that, to me, would be kind of the logical other thing. And the Rookie of the Year battle between Louis Foster and Robert Schwartzman. That's also intriguing as well. So hopefully they talk about those items. There's your cheat sheet,
Let's hope
Fox.
so. Let us hope so. But... before we talk about Nashville, we have to talk about Milwaukee. And it was a very pleasant weekend all around, from the weather to the crowd to the racing. Just a very successful weekend for IndyCar.
Yes. General admission tickets sold out for this event. And they added more the after Saturday because there was so much demand. And then they sold out of general admission tickets. Obviously, the crowd looked healthy. Yes. Is it like the old days where they're packed into turn one? No. But this is progress over even last year. And last year had 2 race dates, so it, I would say, made it harder to sell tickets because not everyone's doing both races. So I think what we saw over the weekend, even the crowd for the series formerly known as Indy Lights, I mean, it was noticeable.
Right.
The qualifying, the Saturday crowd qualifying was solid. So I think the literal state fair atmosphere with having all the concessions right behind the grandstand, and it's accessible. It's in the city, not in the middle of nowhere like Iowa. I think all those things lead to why this event finally is successful again for IndyCar.
And factor in the fact that the Brewers were in town playing, and that's the first place Brewers, by the way. So
not just playing, but it was Bob Uecker Day.
Yeah, Bob Uecker Day,
legendary announcer.
It was a big crowd, big crowds at the stadium for the Brewers over the weekend. So kudos to Milwaukeeans and anybody who traveled to Milwaukee. Wisconsin's has been kind to IndyCar previously at Milwaukee, right in the heyday, then at Road America, and now it seems like it's headed back with Milwaukee. So it was great to see, and they got to see a first-time winner in Christian Rasmussen, and the cheer from the crowd when Rasmussen won that race was considerable as well. So not only are these fans showing out, but knowledgeable IndyCar fans as well, as Rasmussen scored his first career victory.
So let's get into our 3 things. And I think we can probably share the first 2, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Do you want to start with on track or the crowd first?
Well, no, let's talk about Rasmussen because very much a guy that has ruffled some feathers with his racing. It's an aggressive style. It's Ferrucci-esque. And when we were talking about first-time winners, potential first-time winners, we've mentioned Ferrucci for a while, and Rasmussen kind of took that style and has made it his own, and to be able to get the win at Milwaukee this past weekend with how he did it too, right? Just kind of the late caution for moisture with 40 laps to go and coming in for new tires. You can question the guys up front not coming in, but you never want to surrender the lead to pit when it's a maybe not type situation. It wasn't guaranteed that everybody was coming in. For Christian Rasmussen to come in and then basically blow by everybody in the final 40 laps and then win by almost 2 seconds, very impressive. And good for ECR, good for Christian Rasmussen, and he gets victory number 1, up to 12th in the standings. Overall, just a great weekend for Rasmussen and Ed Carpenter Racing.
Yeah, so it's not just how he did it with the late charge on the restart, getting new tires, which at that position where you're at, you have nothing to lose. You might as well go for it. And like you said, we've seen it happen at other tracks in the past, Iowa in particular, right? With getting fresh tires late.
And there were so many laps to go. We're not talking 5-7 laps to go. It was 40
and the restart, it was nearly 30 to go.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of time to make it happen. And what he did and how he raced, he races clean, in my opinion. I understand people are upset about Portland, but look, they were both trying to take each other out. He raced clean, and Pillow even kind of chopped him a little. And to me, he is outside of the Penske guys and Pillow and Pato, and I guess you could throw in Dixon. I'm not really sure, though, at this point. He is one of the best oval drivers in the series right now, and I think that's something that we maybe underlooked all season, and this was the culmination of him getting results on ovals all year. I mean, you look at what he's done. 6th at Indy, led laps. 3rd, led laps at Gateway. Iowa, 6th and 8th place finishes. So, I mean, this was building, right? And maybe we didn't see a first-time winner, but for him to get his first win just 30 races into his IndyCar career with a midfield team, very impressive. And throw in the fact that he had a pit speed violation earlier in the race.
He did.
And to come back from that on a short oval, it's all so impressive what he's done. And the team's catching their stride. Alexander Rossi back-to-back top 5 finishes as he's kind of salvaged his season. And it's Rasmussen 12th, Rinus VeeKay 13th, Alexander Rossi 14th, which, again, been following that points battle all year, and we'll see the final results after this weekend in Nashville. But ECR, first time both cars finishing the top 5. They've won races before. It's not like this is a team that's been completely lost for years. The infusion of cash and sponsorship by Ted Gelov already paid off in year 1. We're already talking, looking to year 2 and bringing back this lineup, but I feel like it's clicking now. And does it have anything to do with Ed Carpenter moving to the timing stand? I don't know, but it certainly hasn't hurt either.
And don't forget that Rasmussen didn't race at Iowa or Gateway last year. That was Ed Carpenter. Then he finished the season, talking about Rasmussen, racing at Milwaukee and Nashville. So he got that oval experience. He won on ovals 2 years ago in lights. So while we didn't altogether expect what he's doing this year, the fact that he wasn't racing on all the ovals last year is pretty wild when you look at his results on ovals this year. 6th, 3rd, 6th, 8th, 1st. Now at Milwaukee. So going back and looking at last year's, maybe he should have been in the seat at Iowa and Gateway. But, despite missing 3 races last year, finished 22nd. So it's not apples to apples, but a tremendous jump in points for Christian Rasmussen. And you always got to kind of bring it up now because this is just how IndyCar works, or racing in general works. I know Rasmussen's under contract for next year. We expect him back. But beyond that, what opportunities are going to be opening for Christian Rasmussen? Definitely opened eyes if they weren't open yet at Milwaukee. If he can continue to perform through next season, is this a driver that is eyed by the Ganassis, Andretti's, McLarens of the world for 2027?
Well, you got to ruin the conversation with that.
Well, that's just how it works around here, guys.
I know. But that doesn't mean we have to jump ahead. Why can't we just enjoy, it was always a conversation with Newgarden
Right.
After a couple years into his career. And look, let's just enjoy it. Look, I have to apologize. I'm the one who thought Ed Carpenter Racing would be the same old all year. And here they are getting a win, competing for wins on ovals. Alexander Rossi has salvaged his season in the last couple races. This is a program that is now clearly ahead of basically every other midfield team except for Foyt, but even that one I'd put an asterisk, right, because of the Penske affiliation and a Penske engineer on Malukas' car, Penske sponsorship, obviously Penske data. I mean, this is a team doing it without a technical alliance. They are the true top of the midfield so far this year.
You always want to finish the year strong if you're not in the championship race, championship contention, and there's no doubt that ECR is doing that. We knew that it would take a little bit longer for ECR to see that cash infusion. Now Jay Fry's on board. He's going to need a full...
you mean Rahal?
Or Rahal, excuse me. But because I saw Jay Fry randomly on television when I was watching the race today.
Oh.
But the cash infusion, we felt like it was going to be something that would take maybe a big off season to really feel it. And maybe we're seeing already signs of it. Winning a race is different from just getting fine results. So you look at Rossi, and he's turned around with a 5th and a 4th last 2 races. But to get a win, a victory for Ed Carpenter Racing, and when's their last victory for Ed Carpenter Racing?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I thought you were going to have it off the top of your head. Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Was it? It would have been Newgarden in 2016.
No,
right?
it was VK in 2021.
VK. Oh, duh. VK at
at
Indy GP.
Yeah, Indy GP. So
yes,
it's been over 4 years since a win for Ed Carpenter Racing, and if Christian Rasmussen can have a good final race of the season at Nashville, could he move up and pass maybe a David Malukas for 11th, which would be the best finish for a season by a Ed Carpenter Racing driver since, as I continue to scroll up, since that 4th place finish by Joseph Newgarden in 2016. So these are the things, and I know you don't want to talk about it, these are the things that open the eyes of the paddock when you have a driver that's able to be this successful consistently. And this is a thing when you have guys from overseas that come over, and Christian Rasmussen from Denmark, you say, okay, the road course racing is going to be there. But what about oval racing? Well, Christian Rasmussen has taken to oval racing in his career here in North America, first in lights and now in IndyCar. So you feel like, man, if he can put it all together from the discipline that he knows in road and street and combine it with his abilities on ovals, he's going to literally be a coveted dude in a couple years. But if ECR can continue to make strides and are competitive next year in the top 10, who's to say he doesn't say, hey, my career has been built here at ECR and it's going to continue if the team can continue to rise up the standings.
And not just a strategy call to get it right, but also it tells me if you're winning races, it means your pit stops are good enough. It means your strategy is good enough. It means your drivers are good enough. So it basically, all of this was a giant stamp of approval for what Ed Carpenter Racing has done since last off season. And I, as a doubter, was completely wrong. So that is me saying they have proved me wrong.
Meanwhile, I'm never wrong. So once again, no, but in all honesty, though, ECR, we've been oft critical of ECR and Ed Carpenter in particular about, hey, it's time to step aside and put two full-time drivers in this seat. And maybe it took a little longer than it should have, but credit Ed Carpenter for saying the best way forward for this team is having 2 dudes in the car for the entire season. And I think that's the first time since 2022. I mean, 2023, it was Connor Daly through Detroit, and then that fell apart, and it was Ryan Hunter-Reay. But the first time since 2022 that the same 2 drivers are going to start and end the season and race every single race, and that was Connor Daly and Rinus VeeKay. So continuity is key, and that's why I believe this twosome will return next year with Rossi and Rasmussen.
So that's our number one. I'd say our number two is Milwaukee, the event itself, right? And we talked a little bit about some of the key things. General admission tickets sold out. What was interesting going into the weekend that was, I would say, relatively new information to us, this was promoted by the Wisconsin State Fair Park and the board and that organization, and not Penske Entertainment like last year. And for them to seemingly surpass, and I get it, different scenario. Last year was a 3-day weekend with 2 races. This year, 2-day weekend with just the one on Sunday. But it seems like they even made a step forward in the promotion. Anecdotally, a lot of people putting out there, hey, they're hearing radio ads, they're seeing billboards, there's content, in terms of advertising, marketing, promotion, that element. Basically all the stuff that opposite of what people said for Iowa. So this was a big step forward. Obviously, I would say Milwaukee is not only locked in for next year, but I did read that Snap-on is back as a title sponsor. It's always key to have your title sponsor return.
Definitely.
All in all, very positive. And Milwaukee is the type of venue the IndyCar needs to make work because it's the right size grandstand. When you're looking at a facility, of course, outside of IMS, ideally you're looking at 30 to 40,000 seats, right? And Milwaukee fits that bill, and hopefully we can see even more seats opened up next year and this event continue to grow.
It's in IndyCar's wheelhouse, which is the Midwest. It is a track that, as you mentioned, fits IndyCar's identity, obviously with the history, 2, with the size of the grandstand. And 2 years ago, we're saying, okay, one more chance to make Milwaukee work, right? We went back with when Andretti was the promoter and the IndyCar Fest and all that stuff that just didn't work. It didn't land. And knowing it was coming back in 2024, once we confirmed that, it was like, this is it. Like, they have to make this work. And credit first to Penske Corp for getting it off the ground last year. And very much so kudos to the Wisconsin State Fair and their board and promotions, because this was 2 weeks ago a lakefront property with all the rain.
Yes.
Right. And what they were able to do to revitalize the infield and around the track and all that, which is in the thick of the state fair just a couple weeks ago, and the deluge that caused flash flooding. I mean, what they were able to do in 2 weeks' time to get the track ready and the property ready on top of all the promotions was first rate. And now in a matter of 2 years, we're saying, gosh, if they can't make Milwaukee work, then what oval can they make work? Man, the sky's the limit for Milwaukee, right? Could we continue to grow this in year 3 and open up more grandstands in turn 1 and stuff like that? I mean, it's an exciting time right now for the Milwaukee Mile and IndyCar. And
looking like negotiations for beyond 2026 also going to begin this fall. That per Dave Kallman of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, who covers motorsports for that outlet. So all in all, very positive things for this weekend. And it just, I think before the fear was, okay, you have Road America, but can you support 2 races in state? And Road America being mid to late June and Milwaukee being late August, I think they've figured out the formula to make this work. And I think it's also key that it's before Labor Day weekend, but also right after the state fair. So people go to the state fair, it's on their minds. You obviously can advertise there.
Advertisement
exactly.
all over the place.
There was some signage, but from what I saw online, it was really just like one banner. But I'm sure they have other promotions and stuff. So to me, they made something work that we didn't think previously was possible to work. And right. I think that's massive.
Well, just think of, let's say, Facebook, for example. Like if you're following Wisconsin State Fair Facebook page for the fair, they're going to be interspersing, hey, by the way, in 2 weeks we have an IndyCar race, right? And Road America and Milwaukee have been made to work because A, Wisconsin has shown that it turns out for IndyCar, and 2, it's also a destination for people, for IndyCar fans in the surrounding states, Indiana included, right? Road America is just a great weekend to take the family. You camp, you do whatever. It's picturesque, right? It's like, sit under a tree, camp out, whatever. And then Milwaukee's different. It's a compiled in a 2-day event now. and it's historic, right? It's not that hard to get to Milwaukee, and they've turned it very much into a fair atmosphere, which makes sense with the fair 2 weeks ago. So both venues and events have a lot to be desired, not just for locals, but for those that want to travel, especially like you mentioned, pre-Labor Day. Once you get past Labor Day, everybody's back in school. Everybody's getting into the grind of school and all that. Football is fully returned.
Well, and you're competing with the Packers in the NFL,
right?
And in college football, Wisconsin. So it's just not worth it.
And it starts getting chilly in Wisconsin.
Yes, it does.
I mean, we've been battling that the past couple days here in Indiana. We just seemingly skipped late summer, early fall, and just went to mid-fall the last several days. And that's the thing. And so even with barely 2 months in between these races, Road America and Milwaukee, both not only are succeeding, but growing in popularity. And it's great to see.
All right. My number 3, a driver who everyone wondered what the strategy call was.
Oof,
it looked brutal in real time. When interviewed by Fox, Mike Shank said, "We were just trying something in terms of leaving Marcus Armstrong out on old tires. He fell way back in the order. I believe he stayed on the lead lap, right?
He did.
And basically cut off a pit stop. All that to say, they were trying something and it worked, because he finished 10th in the standings at Milwaukee after what was looking to be a disaster of a race finish. And now it is 9 of the past 10 events he's finished in the top 10, including a podium at Iowa 2 and a top 5 fifth at Road America. So his late season surge continues, now 7th in points ahead of Felix Rosenqvist by 6 going into the finale.
Tied with Colton Herta right now heading into Nashville. Could very much finish 6th in the championship this year, which would be tremendous for Marcus Armstrong. So the immediate returns were not there for the move to stay out, but it paid off in the end, and I'm sure circumstances helped dictate that. But how about Marcus Armstrong right now? We've talked about it before. Partial season with Chip Ganassi in 23, finished 20th in points. Last year, his full season with Chip Ganassi, 14th in points. He is then shipped off to Meyer Shank Racing due to the charter situation, but obviously Meyer Shank, an offshoot of Chip Ganassi Racing, and now 7th heading into the final race of the season with a podium at Iowa 2. It's been an upward trajectory for Marcus Armstrong. If all things remained the same, I'm sure Chip would have been over the moon to keep him in some capacity, but it just didn't work out. And he continues to rack up really, really impressive finishes. And yeah, the immediate returns on that move weren't great, but they made it work, figured it out, came home 10th.
Got a bonus point for leading a lap too. And of note, Chip Ganassi had availability after the race earlier this week, and we'll get into the other rumors, but he was asked about Marcus Armstrong. This is from Nathan Brown. Chip Ganassi Racing had Armstrong under contract for this year. He was loaned out. Next year we'll race again at MSR. It was already confirmed. Chip said, absolutely, he's a member of our team. So keep that in mind down the road.
Would you say that right now, if anybody left Chip Ganassi Racing, Marcus Armstrong would be number 1 to get moved over to that team?
Yes, barring a crazy thing in free agency.
Right. Somebody amazing being available.
Like a Will Power.
But, even, I don't know. If I have a choice between Marcus Armstrong and Will Power to put in a seat,
long term,
if I'm Chip Ganassi, I want Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, every team is different. For midfielders that think they can get good results right away with Will Power, that makes sense. But for Chip Ganassi, I think the play would be Marcus Armstrong. But I think he's proven once again this year that he is a guy that belongs in this series and continues to learn, and still just 25 years old.
All right, what's your third?
My number 3 for this race, we've talked so much positive. Let's talk about Nolan Siegel, because I feel like it was just another unforced error by Nolan Siegel. And his last 6 races. And remember, he did not start Iowa 2 because of the concussion, right? Or the injury. So his last 6 races, 24th, did not start, 18th, 18th, 16th, and now 27th. We talk about drivers that are finishing strong. Nolan Siegel is not. We're pretty confident he's back.
I mean, he's locked in the entry to the leader's circle, which is very key for
important.
him.
But also, McLaren isn't in this series to barely make it out of the cut line for the leader circle. So it's going to be when we talk about pivotal years for drivers in 2026, Nolan Siegel to me is towards the top of the list. Things like what happened on Sunday, which seemed to be a too often an occurrence for Nolan Siegel. Unforced errors. He owned it, but that doesn't help him within McLaren if he cannot figure it out. And Sunday was the latest example. Just getting too low, even touching the apron was too much, and he ends up in the wall on lap 1 and finishes last. You see, these things can't happen at any race team, let alone McLaren. When you have a guy 2nd in points, 4th in points, and 22nd in points. I don't care how nice he is. I don't care how much that TK has kind of taken him under his wing. This is a kid that needs to perform in 2026 or he's out of a job.
Absolutely. And of note, a bonus, Christian Lundgaard, back-to-back top 6 finishes on ovals. So and keep that for what it's worth.
3 straight top 6 finishes overall. Had that runner-up at Laguna Seca.
And at Portland as well.
Remember when people were calling us out about
his oval performance?
Lundgaard couldn't race.
Look, I was sold after this year's Indy 500. He finished 7th. He qualified well as well. I was like, okay, this guy's going to figure it out. And he has this year. He's had some good results on ovals. And as you said, you feel like next year he's a legit championship contender. And I can't really disagree with that statement. So all in all, a lot of good out of Milwaukee. TV rating is whatever, 779,000 viewers. That's up from the 735,000 last year on race 2. Remember, race 1 was on Peacock. Race 2 was on USA Network. I'm sure there was a NASCAR lead-in, right?
Yes.
So
there was.
That's why the number was boosted on cable. But Fox is happy because they sent out a release up 6% over last year. Best Milwaukee viewership since 2012, which is 1.4 million on ABC. That's really quite the lead-in. I'm sure that they had for that. Up 24% versus last year's 626,000 viewers for IndyCar non-Indy 500 race average. Peaked to 854,000 viewers at the finish, which, again, always good when you peak at the finish.
True.
The problem with thermal is they peaked at the beginning. And this from the first 16 races of the season, IndyCar on Fox/FS1, averaging 1.376 million viewers, up 28% over last year's full 16 race average on NBC USA CNBC, which is 1.073 million. So 28%. I mean, we were hoping for 40. You won at least 30. They're right at that threshold.
And they'll need to finish strong because, correct me if I'm wrong, Nashville was a network race last year. So,
but it was going up against the NFL.
Correct. So they'll be a little bit better this year, hopefully. But, they are what they are. We know what it's really coming to focus the second half of the season of what IndyCar, where IndyCar is in terms of its core audience and who's tuning in. It's right around that 700,000 to 800,000 range. That's just where it is. The goal for Fox and IndyCar, everybody involved, is to raise that base a little bit next year. Could you get that base between 800 to 900,000 next year? I think that would be a tangible, achievable goal.
I think they can get it to 1 million because I think they're going to fix the scheduling, which we'll get to here.
You think?
In a bit.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are in a position, and even me, we fell into it maybe, is they just expect this explosion of growth because it's on Fox, and we got spoiled when St. Pete came out. It was 1.4 million. I don't know if we're going to have that IndyCar explosion. I think slow, growth, or not molasses growth like IndyCar has been in the past when it was up is up, even if it's 0.8%. But I just think steady growth is going to be more likely than just an explosion of growth. I think, to me, I'll head into the season next year expecting an 800 to 900,000 average outside of Indy. If it can be any more than that, closer to 1 million, like you mentioned, that'd be phenomenal. But I think having realistic expectations maybe is just expecting that tangible, steady growth. It's not going to all of a sudden IndyCar is just going to take over the airwaves. Kind of like, I mean, even F1, it's taken a while for them to grow where they're at now.
Also, congrats to Dennis Hauger, champion of the series formerly known as Indy Lights. He was seen pictured chatting with Dale Coyne post-race. And also congrats to Salvador de Alba, the Mexican driver, first-time race winner in the series as well.
Awesome to see new winners in Indy Lights, especially with Hauger and Kyle Collette basically dominating the championship. So it's cool to see Miles Rowe get that win a couple weeks back, and it's cool to see de Alba get that dub at Milwaukee.
And speaking of Miles Rowe, he was confirmed back at Able Motorsports for next year. So
championship or bust for Miles Rowe next year, in my opinion.
I would agree. He'll be back in the number 99 Force Indy entry. All right, so that's a look at Milwaukee. Do we want to talk schedule, silly season, video game? There's a lot to get to after just our race recap.
I think the video game is a big deal.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what we should talk about next.
Okay, let's do the video game. It's confirmed after IndyCar broke away from iRacing, remember in January of 2023. In fact, there was a Dale Jr. tweet after the Racer article came out that IndyCar was going to leave iRacing, basically just saying this is a shame and terrible. And full circle, they come back to iRacing. The timeline takes a couple of years. The Motorsport Games deal was a complete failure, as we know. But they come back around, and now suddenly IndyCar will have a standalone video game for the first time since 2004, built by iRacing, which I would say is very trusted in terms of racing simulations. And this is a big deal because it'll be available on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. I don't know what Steam is. I've heard
Steam
of it,
is
but
like
I don't know what it is.
Online gaming, where you can buy and buy games and play and all that stuff. Yep.
It's clear I'm not a gamer, but
and I know just enough to be dangerous. Like, I play video games still, not religiously or anything.
And this will feature IndyCar and series formerly known as Indy Lights as well, which I think is very cool.
So looking into, for me, World of Outlaws, which is also made by iRacing, correct? Mm-hmm. And the upcoming NASCAR game, NASCAR 25, which will be released by iRacing. There's a lot to like here, obviously. Not just that there's a game, but that there's a game coming out that is made by a reputable source, which is obviously iRacing is at the top in terms of realism and stuff like that for racing. A lot of it online and all that stuff. So this is huge. I don't know. It's very tough for me to know what to expect right off the bat. And I think it would be best worked as a game that comes out and it is constantly updated over a year to 2 years. I don't think this is going to be an annual release like top games are, like Madden, college football and NHL, NBA, stuff like that. But the fact that this is already being targeted for a second half release in 2025 means that this has been worked on for a while. The game has been being worked on for a while. And surprisingly that there was no hints of this, right? We're going to talk about hints we're getting about the schedule and rumors and all that stuff. There was nothing out there. As recently as the mailbag last week with Marshall Pruitt, somebody asked him if there was any developments with a video game, and he said nothing to report. There was nothing. So not only was this a pleasant news, it was a surprising news that this is happening, and the fact that iRacing has been working on it. Maybe we should have realized it once we're seeing the iRacing component to the track previews and stuff like that. But all in all, just a phenomenal news for those that game, and hopefully IndyCar can market it to an audience that maybe not familiar with IndyCar, but will get into it based on the video game.
And with NASCAR having the iRacing game, there's at least some crossover and promotion in that aspect. All in all, this is big. I mean, there are a lot of details to be determined, but it's available on the major platforms. It's a credible company producing it. It's well known in racing and amongst racing fans. They've done their homework. This should have been the path all along.
Very much so. But it takes two to tango. And Motorsport Games obviously had their own internal troubles, and IndyCar thought they had a deal with them, and they did have a deal, and they thought it was going to be a sweet deal, but not so much. But the fact, I mean, talk about what can change in a couple of years. We talked about Milwaukee. What about iRacing? When you couldn't even race Indy cars on iRacing, and there was a holdup with the contract. Now all of a sudden iRacing is going to develop an IndyCar standalone game. So I'm going to temper my enthusiasm in terms of what to expect, because so many people have so many different expectations. Some people love, single player career mode. Other people want to do multiplayer all the time online, stuff like that. Do they want to have a career mode? A lot of people want to see classic cars and liveries and all that stuff. I don't know if we can expect everything off the bat, but the key thing is sales, downloads of DLC, even paid DLC. This iRacing will continue.
What is DLC to those
downloadable content? Okay. So if they say in 6 months they have download the best of the IRL liveries or whatever for $5.99, you can get new liveries. Feeding that in terms of buying add-ons is going to be huge for the sustainability of the IndyCar game. I don't expect everything to be available right away, and I also expect this game to be updated as new tracks become available and new liveries and new historic drivers and all that stuff.
They were scanning St. Pete. We should have saw that as a hint.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if you saw that social media post. They were scanning St. Pete. That should have been a sign for us. I think that this was happening.
But I think we were so jaded by the Motorsport Games relationship. Yes. There's like, no way this is going to happen. But no, I think, look, if you're a gamer, even if you're a half-hearted gamer and you're an IndyCar fan, just make plans to get this game, whether it's on console, whether it's on Steam. If you have a laptop, you have access to Steam. You can download it. Steam is free. You pay for a game on Steam. You can play it on your laptop or desktop or whatever. So let's support this thing. It's been a long time coming. People have cried for it for 2 decades. When this thing comes out, hopefully in the second half of next year, let's support it, and it will continue to grow and have content and be really something that fills a tremendous void for IndyCar.
Features include a multi-level career mode, licensed drivers from IndyCar and Indy Lights, online multiplayer per the release. So this will be the first game since IndyCar Series 2005. Did you ever play that?
I did.
I did as well.
For the time, it was amazing.
It was. It was a fun game.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I want to say I didn't have it. I think my aunt had it on Wii, and I played it.
Yeah, I think one of my buddies had it on Wii as well.
Yeah, but 20 years is a long time without a game, and it's a long time coming. Let IndyCar Nation support this thing to make sure it is sustainable over the long term.
I just hope it's not just the IndyCar tracks, but you can race other tracks that iRacing has scanned. Hint, Michigan, Pocono, maybe even Cleveland. Who knows? I don't know if that's on there.
Maybe that would be a DLC, Caleb. Yeah. Maybe download, pay $9.99 for access to 10 historic IndyCar tracks. The benefit of that, with the crossover from NASCAR, is if you have the rendering, obviously, and the build of Michigan, you can easily, quote unquote, put it into the IndyCar game
and make it where you can unlock these tracks.
Yes, right?
Right?
So, yeah, I'm excited about the possibilities for this thing. Let's just make sure we're all going out if we are gamers. And even if you're not, maybe it's time to get back into it with hopefully what will be called IndyCar 26 coming next year.
And hopefully we'll get some sort of preview by the Indy 500 next May. That'd be probably the perfect time to kind of...
Maybe a gameplay trailer of some sort?
Or even like they have, a gameplay thing in the fan zone. Mm-hmm. Like I get that it won't be ready for like release, but they could use that to test it out. Who knows? But either way, I'm sure we'll at least see something by Indy 500 weekend for that. All right, so that's the IndyCar video game. That's one of the other 3 big items. Let's quickly get into the schedule, and a lot going down. First off, Phoenix is back, reportedly. Nathan Brown first had it. Marshall Pruitt added that it'll be spring training as well for IndyCar. Mexico, all signs point to it moving forward. Negotiations advanced. Toronto, talk of Downsview. Marshall Pruitt of Racer.com saying was under consideration, but the airport work, or at least the closed airport work on the runway of the former Buttonville Airport, demolition, redevelopment work getting in the way. So downtown Markham, Ontario, 300,000 residents, Canada's 16th largest city. That's been proposed for a street course.
I mean, me immediately, I hear that and I'm saying, hey, why don't we just have 2 races in Canada, right? Let's go to Markham and Toronto, even though they're 45 minutes apart.
I don't think that would work. But
I don't know. How far away is Road America and Milwaukee? Is it 2 hours?
Probably. I'm not exactly
45
sure.
minutes isn't 2 hours. I'm just saying, put one in the spring, one in the summer. But at the very least, thinking short term, Toronto will only be gone for a year, and we'll go to Markham, which is about the size of, maybe a little bit bigger than Fort Wayne where we're based. Big enough that they wanted an NHL team. That's for sure.
So that says something. All in all, though, good stuff there. And then you get to the wild and wacky. You have the possibility of Washington, D.C. street race.
Explain to me how that's going to happen, by the way.
I don't know, but it's been thrown out there as Fox Sports obviously has that in mind. Race around the National Mall would obviously be amazing. Adam Stern saying the IndyCar explore the idea of a street race in D.C. area as soon as next year, though in the early stages may not happen, per sources. Adam Stern also said IndyCar not expected to release their 2026 schedule this week, so don't expect that. But what we do know, because D.C. sounds amazing, that there's a lot of hoops to jump through for that. But what for IndyCar, I think the biggest thing is they were at an oval before the Indy 500, and they're piggybacking on NASCAR weekend. Now, the race could be Saturday night. It could be Sunday. It's unclear. Probably going to be Saturday night.
Race. Yeah. I don't
all
even
in
know
all,
if it's a Saturday
could we
night.
see drivers do the double, like Kyle Larson or
maybe
someone else?
I don't know. I think it's so early in the season that for both series that they're maybe just focused on getting their seasons off to a good start. Phoenix is awesome because IndyCar went back, similar to Michigan. Oh, let's go back to a classic IndyCar track and run it back, and didn't work. And now this opens up so many other possibilities, because remember when Mark Miles had the discussion about, we're not looking at anything old, was it Watkins Glen in particular that he kind of chuckled?
Yes.
And I think cursed even,
yes.
didn't he? All of a sudden I'm looking at, why not IndyCar partner with Cup at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, because that'll be in August, right? Or no, that's in May.
I think I moved up, so
I don't think they could fit on the IndyCar
maybe
schedule.
not next year, but
in the future.
Future.
So the confirmed dates we have St. Pete March 1st. We have Phoenix, which will be March 7th or 8th. Arlington, March 15th. Barber Motorsports Park, thanks to Kyle Conley, 59 on Twitter, found this on the schedule for Barber. IndyCar weekend is March 27th through 29th. So hat tip to him for finding that. Long Beach is April 19th, so I don't know if there will be a race slotted in between. Probably not. Indy GP, May 9th. Indy 500, May 24th. Detroit, May 31st. Don't forget, you could still have the IMS Open test probably either before or after Long Beach. So
I think it'd be
lot better having 4 races in 5 weeks.
I think it'd be great to do it the week after Long Beach or 2 weeks after Long Beach, because then you go test at Indy GP, Indy qualifying, Indy 500 consecutively, maybe 4 in 4 weeks or 4 in 5 weeks. So I think that'd be really good. The Phoenix thing excites me. This is the power of Fox, okay? Because NASCAR, they may not say it, they don't want to partner with IndyCar and Oval because they're going to look slow as hell. But this is Fox going, look, NASCAR, we're giving you a crap ton of money, and we own a property that we want to partner up with you at some venues. And you know what? You're going to say yes because we're giving you a crap ton of money. And this is Exhibit A, correct? And I think this is not just the only time, maybe the only time next year that we see it, but I don't think this is going to be the last time we see it. And then when you get into the wild and wacky with Washington, D.C., you look at Fox and you look at how big Fox is, and the current administration within Washington, D.C. is friendly with Fox, and you say, make some calls and something happens. But Washington, D.C. just seems like you may as well be trying to race on the moon. I mean, you got diplomats and politicians trying to get everywhere. You got motorcades everywhere. It's just like to shut down D.C. for a race, it just seems like impossible.
It does. So we'll see if that happens. I have my doubts for sure.
But like Northern Virginia, maybe across the Potomac, I don't know what's all over there. I mean, it's pretty developed. I mean, they're building the new Washington Commanders Stadium, right, in Northern Virginia. Could you eventually do a race around there once it's built?
And in international race news, Zandvoort eyeing a partnership with IndyCar or NASCAR once it leaves F1 after 2026. In fact, the Dutch GP, Adam Stern, had this. They've not sold out of tickets for this weekend.
Really?
Which is wild to think about. But the story came from Newsweek in terms of the potential. So this is Zandvoort being interested. And look, you have Rinus VeeKay. Obviously, there's a selling point.
You have Christian Lundgaard. Close.
Yeah, you have several drivers. I mean, Rasmussen, basically anyone in Scandinavia. So this is a fascinating thing. And look, this isn't unheard of. IndyCar drew quite well back in the Champ Car days when they raced at Circuit TT Assen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been, what, 2005, 2006?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm sure it's early 2000s. This will be cool because I really like Zandvoort as a track. It has that sweeping banking turn that is so unlike anything that Formula One is at anywhere. And one of the few racetracks in Europe that have that kind of banking, even with one turn. And there's also a natural tie-in that doesn't fit NASCAR in terms of the drivers in the series. You mentioned Rinus VeeKay, obviously Dutch-born, but several other people from around the surrounding countries that race in IndyCar. NASCAR doesn't have that to offer. What NASCAR has is the infrastructure and capital to make something happen and say, yeah, absolutely, we'll pay for everything to come over to Zandvoort and we'll have a race over there. IndyCar not necessarily in that position, but if Zandvoort is actively seeking a race and maybe would help finance some of the travel for IndyCar over there, then it's definitely a conversation that IndyCar needs to have and Penske Corp. If it makes sense, even if Penske Corp has to pay some money, if you can beat out NASCAR going somewhere, especially where you have more fans than NASCAR does because of the drivers you have, you need to take advantage. I would expect nothing more than this being an exhibition race in the off season or, entering into, I don't know.
Look, a European swing of 3 races in September or whatever. I mean, to me, that'd be pretty cool. So it was TT Circuit Assen, and that was the 2007, so the final Champ Car season. They also raced Circuit Zolder in Belgium as well. They were racing at Surfers. They were racing in Mexico City during that season. Also, in theory, we're going to race in China, just like they were going to race in South Korea a couple years prior. Neither of those races obviously worked out, but
I mean, it's interesting because you look at the average temperature, and this is just, let's go by Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and you're looking at, in September, an average temperature of 65 degrees. So if you wanted to do they have the same seasons as us because they're in the, Northern Hemisphere?
Mm-hmm.
So either you have it soon after the season's over, very soon, or it fits into the season somewhere. So I don't know. I don't know how IndyCar pulls this off. The beauty of what IndyCar has built in their season is there's not very many gaps, at least what we expect for 2026. There would have to be a considerable gap for Zandvoort to work. You can't race the week before. You can't race the week after, effectively. So you need a 3-week gap to put Zandvoort in. Is it doable? Maybe. This one I'm just going to put up to rumor until we get something more substantiated. But the fact that Zandvoort is actively seeking a race is good news for IndyCar. I mean,
yeah, it's the track saying it, and not IndyCar. So it's
correct.
Good to be wanted, right?
Oh yeah, right. And IndyCar's not often in that position, right? Being wanted. So this makes more sense for IndyCar than NASCAR in terms of crowd. While NASCAR had a decent attendance in Mexico, it wasn't huge like we expect it to be for IndyCar with Pato O'Ward. I'm a similar mindset with Zandvoort. Yeah, people will show up for NASCAR, but they'll really show out for IndyCar based on the drivers in the series.
Think about how accessible this will be for European fans in general. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It won't just be the Dutch showing up for Rinus VeeKay. So
you got
it's cool to talk about.
Sweden
I'll be shocked.
And Denmark and all that. I mean,
yeah, the UK,
Spain for that matter.
Yes.
For Alex Palou, right?
Yeah. Italians can travel. You know, they have an Italian team in Prima. So all in all, I'll be shocked if it happens, but cool to have something to talk about. Good fodder for the off season, of course, as well. So that's a look at the track news. And then we got to shift to silly season, which is
there's
outright silly.
The chaos keeps coming, huh? Or the potential chaos. In the end, I don't think much happens, but it's good to at least have some rumors, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. So it started with Nathan Brown posted a story, IndyStar.com, with the silliest of silly season rumors. And yes, we're all waiting on what happens between Will Power, David Malukas, with that. But also Colton Herta. Could he go to F2 next year? That's a rumor. And something I thought about, look, with Cadillac F1 announcing Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, that was just announced as a 1-year deal, right? They said for 2026. Now, it doesn't mean it's just for 2026, but I thought the wording was interesting. And could he do the extra FP1s with the team to get the extra super license points? Isn't it like a point per session?
I think so.
Along with doing F2, and you would easily get there. Look, the super license rules are stupid. He's qualified, right? You finish second in the IndyCar championship like you did last year, you're more than qualified. If you're a full-time IndyCar driver with competency, you're qualified for F1. It was put in place with Verstappen, which was such a unique situation, but now you have Kimi Antonelli racing. I mean, it's silly, and we've talked about that before, but that's apparently another rumor at hand is Herta going to F2. He's raced in Europe before, obviously, before he came back to IndyCar and went to Indy Lights first. And then you have other things in terms of Graham Rahal saying he doesn't think Will Power is going to land at Rahal. But he says he thinks it's Andretti in terms of where he goes.
I mean, there's a spot
Herta's
open.
not denying the F2 rumors. He said, I've heard those rumors too. That's all it is right now. Rumors. Didn't outright deny it.
I do think Colton Herta is probably frustrated with his season. He finished the season last year with a win, had 2 wins, finished second in the championship. And the thought was, okay, he's going to be a championship contender in 2025. Nobody's been really a championship contender with Alex Palou, but he's not even in the top 5 right now. He's 6th as we head to Nashville.
And that's as high as he can finish.
Yeah. It's been a disappointing season for Colton Herta. He has now been in this series, IndyCar, for 7 seasons? Still only 25 years old. And outside of the second place finish last year, he had a couple down seasons with 10th in 2022, 10th in 2023, and 6th this year. If he's going to do it, it makes sense. And then you look at the other side. So you're looking at Cadillac F1. We understand why Cadillac F1 went with 2 veterans because of the new regulations in Formula One next year. Cadillac is thinking everything is reset, so we have a decent chance of hitting the ground running because everyone's at zero effectively for 2026. So would it make sense to bring Herta over, have a partnership with an F2 team and let's say it's possible. You mentioned the 1-year contracts for both Checo and Valtteri.
At least I assume that's how it was presented.
And maybe it was just wording, but keeping their options open. Let's say they're 9th in the championship in Formula One next year, and they say, okay, this is going to be more of a long-term build than we thought. Let's bring in a young driver and not a veteran, and maybe boot either Checo or Bottas and bring in Colton Herta. In that respect, it makes sense.
Look, their plan A was for Herta to get the super license. The only reason why they went with 2 veterans is because Herta isn't eligible. They clearly, Jack Crawford, not on the radar. Alex Palou, not on their radar because of being a new team. I'm convinced Herta was going to get the seat had he qualified for the super license.
Yeah, I think it may be the last, if there's legitimacy to this, the last best chance for Colton Herta, and who could criticize him if he takes it. It's not ideal to go run F2 for an entire season, but after the season he has had, with the disappointment he has had, who's to say where his mindset is?
Also with his salary, which is rumored to be around $7 million in IndyCar, highest paid driver. That's peanuts for F1, so he'd come at a great value in that aspect. So who knows? And then you throw in Alex Palou and more F1 rumors. Nathan Brown, IndyStar.com, also reporting that Red Bull Racing expressing interest in giving Alex Palou a ride for 2026 next to Max Verstappen.
Now, so there's a bit of, it's been very much a social media spat about this. So Nathan Brown, they originally reported this. Now, to be clear,
sources with direct knowledge of the talks confirmed to IndyStar
have been talking. There's no contract on the table, nothing like that. So Helmut Marko has, I think it was today, whatever it is in the Netherlands right now, denied that there was a contract offered. Well, that wasn't what Nathan Brown was reporting, right?
And Chip Ganassi called it clickbait.
Correct, which, whatever.
Here's the thing with Palou. There's been smoke around this F1 thing for several years, right? McLaren got burned by it. Chip Ganassi Racing, in theory, got burned by it, but he came back. Palou came back, so it worked out in their favor. I'm sure he got paid handsomely for that, too.
Now, Chip Ganassi says, effectively, I'm not selling, but money talks. And here's a quote from Max Verstappen on Alex Palou. Quote, "It's always so difficult to say. I know Alex already from go-karting times. I think what he is achieving in IndyCar is incredible. It's so impressive to see, but it's impossible to know how people will do in F1, and it's the same question the other way around. How would you do in IndyCar? You have no idea. So for me, it's a bit of waste of time to try to debate that. I'm just so happy to see him doing so well in IndyCar and the way he's been dominating." End quote. So that's Max's thoughts, which is more talking about Palou and not giving any real hint on whether it's possible or not. Look, the guy has 8 victories in this series. He has 4 championships already. Much like Colton Herta, is this the last, if this is legit, is it the last best chance for Alex Palou to race in Formula One?
Yes.
Then how can you blame him if he is offered something? I can't. And the money talks. If they said, we're going to give you $20 million and 10 of that goes to Chip Ganassi and 10 of it goes to you, and we just figure it out, even if it's just, hey, we'll pay you $10 million a year for us to rent him for a couple of years and see how he does.
I mean, we used to see this where teams would loan out, like Montoya got loaned out to Chip Ganassi Racing in the kart days.
Correct.
Loaned out by Williams? Is that right?
Yeah.
Because he then obviously raced in Williams F1. So we saw that with Zanardi as well. So this is a thing that happens, and it's happened in the past.
And here's the thing to remember. The money in Formula One is so stupid. And we were talking about this yesterday with the announcement that MasterCard is going to be now part of the
McLaren.
The McLaren, well, it already has
McLaren MasterCard
McLaren
F1 team.
Yeah, it's going to be in the name. They are paying $100 million a year to be MasterCard is for to be what McLaren MasterCard team or whatever it is.
Title sponsor.
Meanwhile, Fox just bought 1/3 of the IndyCar series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for $125 million. So that means one sponsorship deal for 1 year in Formula One is just $25 million less than what IndyCar and IMS is worth, at least 1/3 of it. So let's not gloss over the fact that Formula One has just stupid money. And if Red Bull wants Alex Palou, it will find a way to get Alex Palou.
Yes. Also, Chip said Alex had a chance to leave and he didn't. Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't mean he's not going to leave with a second chance.
And who's to say, who knows how long this contract is, if Alex Palou can go out and dominate again next year. You know, I don't know what the buyout is. I'm sure it's a lot more stringent based on the McLaren drama, but no contract is, it's not a word, unbuyoutable. How about that? So you never know. If Red Bull really wants Alex Palou, it can get Alex Palou. And I don't necessarily think maybe it's this offseason, but with the revolving door that Red Bull has with that second seat opposite Max.
Nothing has worked since Perez left.
And
he
even,
wasn't working in the last season.
Perez one, regs go to zero, so it would be a great opportunity for, and this is maybe the benefit of bringing over Alex Palou for 26 is he can come in and learning those cars and setups just like everybody else. Being a veteran driver doesn't necessarily mean as much as it would most other years in Formula One.
And you're going to have a lot of testing time too.
Right. So it makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I can guarantee you that contract isn't like most IndyCar contracts in terms of the out clauses based on the history with Alex Palou, but never say never. If Red Bull wants him, they will get him.
And then finally, the other bit of silly season news, Racer.com, Marshall Pruitt reporting Prima seeking additional funding to continue in 2026. Team rep declined to comment at Milwaukee. There have been rumors since May about the team's financial security long-term, and that was pre-Robert Schwartzman's shocking Indy 500 pole position. But they survived May. It just seems silly. There's plenty of funding, but look, I've noticed throughout the year, it's like outside of Indy there, and maybe a couple early races, there's not
empty side pods.
Yeah, there's nothing on the side pods. And the other thing is Deborah Mayer, who's a co-team owner with Angelo Rosen. They've reported over $40 million to establish the IndyCar program. So look, they're looking for some additional investment. Who knows who that is?
Don Cusick calling.
Could it be Don Cusick? Could it be someone else? And Don Cusick, partner with an IndyCar team. And in fact, we have another special episode that's interview dropping with him as well, talking about that, as they also are expanding into the series formerly known as Indy Lights with a 2-car team for 26 in partnership with HMD Motorsports, who's shifting down to 4 and should see those drivers, at least one of them, announced for this weekend moving forward. But with Prima, look, they have the funds, but I think they're just not commercially getting to where they thought they would be at this point.
But it's so bizarre because this discussion started in May, and we had heard rumors about that. We kind of scoffed at them because how does it make sense that they're already struggling 2 months into the season, their first season? Did they not understand what they were getting into? Did they expect a lot more sponsorship activation and assistance? I mean, it's year one with nothing proven. I don't know what they expected to happen.
And they're getting results late in the season now, too. It's beyond just the Indy 500 pole, which is the only highlight for a long time. But now they're getting good results. So it is surprising that that's where we're at.
Yeah, I just and this was a direct quote from Marshall Pruitt's article, mounting questions regarding Prema's ability to complete the season arose during the week leading into qualifying for the Indianapolis 500, which means barely 2 months into the season, there was already speculation that Prema was going to be unable to finish the season. What's that about? They have their own building, right, in Indianapolis. They invested all this money, $40 million is rumored in the story, and they weren't even going to finish this. Like, what's going on? And it's not like there was a leadership change, right? It's the same people that invested from overseas into this program. This is very, very weird that I don't know if they expected millions and millions of dollars of sponsorship money to come out of nowhere. I don't know. Did they misread the room on what IndyCar is and isn't in terms of the bottom line? I don't know. But I will say, if Prema can't make it in IndyCar,
no one can.
Well, nobody from Europe can, is my thing. I mean, unless you're like a Red Bull or something, because we had, there's obviously a lot of traffic coming from the European ladder to IndyCar in the United States. And that's been great. But we saw Carlin come over with delusions of grandeur after much success and continued success in Europe, and that didn't work. Then Prema, who you could argue has a more prolific history than even Carlin in juniors formulas and the ladder in Europe, they come over, and within a year, they run out of capital. My thing would be maybe it's just not in the cards for a European team to come over and make it work in IndyCar.
And then finally, during the intro press conference with Cadillac F1 and Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, Bottas saying that he has the Indy 500 on his bucket list. Obviously, there's a connection now, and he's interested. Obviously, not going to be next year, probably be post F1 career, but something to keep in mind for the future, and Andretti and Dan Taurus can clearly make that happen with the connection there as well.
I would not plan on seeing that for even 2030. I don't know. I mean, Bottas, 36 years old. He's probably got a couple more good years in Formula One. You know, I don't know. Maybe 39, 40 years old. We'll see it. But, interesting. I'd like to see Bottas at Indy.
And sorry, one final thing. Dale Coyne Racing will have an announcement regarding the number 18 car, introduce new team partners Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. local time, downtown Nashville. I saw something about a restaurant called Mel's Diner somehow involved. Not sure. And then Dennis Hauger, obviously, we talked about that connection. So Arenas VK has empty side pods for the spotter guide for Nashville. So something to keep in mind for that.
I think there's a common theme between what's happening tomorrow and the empty side pods.
Right? I would think so as well.
Whatever's being announced probably has something to do with the side pods being empty.
Yes. One would think. So that's a look at all the silly season stuff. And with that, we can finally move forward to previewing Nashville. And we have the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix coming up at Nashville SuperSpeedway. We talked about changes on liveries and whatnot, and there are quite a few for this weekend. Ferrucci back in the Phoenix Investments car, fifth third for Graham Rahal. Sam's Club for Kyle Kirkwood. Marcus Ericsson back in the Browning Chapman car. Dogecoin for Devlin DiFrancesco. Could this be the final race for him with Rahal? Louis Foster with Desnuda Organic Tequila, a cool black and gold livery for him, that being unveiled. Metallica car for Felix Rosenquist. It is awesome. All-American Rejects sponsoring Connor Daly. We mentioned previously that they will be playing a pre-show concert there, obviously at the Indy 500 as well, so that featured on the car as well. The schedule for the weekend, again, just a Saturday, Sunday affair again. We will have Practice 1, FS1, IndyCar Live, IndyCar Radio, and SiriusXM as well. 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, qualifying 2 p.m. Eastern on FS2, and Highline and final practice 4:30 Eastern on FS2. Then on Sunday, TV window starts at 2 Eastern on Big Fox. And in terms of the green flag time, remember there's an extended pre-race for this event.
Man, what are they going to fill it with?
That's a great point because the championship's decided, so they're going to have to look for other storylines. But 225 laps, 2:45 Eastern, 1:45 Central for the green flag time. And we'll take a look at our 3 key stats, courtesy of Chad 200 for the Music City GP. Robert Schwartzman could become the third person ever to win Indy 500 pole and Rookie of the Year in the same season. He would join Walt Faulkner and Teo Fabi. Jacob Abel, only full-time driver that's not led a lap this season. That has never happened in kart/IRL/IndyCar. And Christian Lundgaard's second-place finish would make him the 5th driver in history with 4 runner-up finishes in a season, but no wins, joining Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal, AJ Allmendinger, and Pato O'Ward. With that, who do you like this weekend?
I think it will be an emphatic exclamation point to a great season, and Alex Palou wins at Nashville.
I'm going to go with the another storyline in Will Power.
Oh, how about
getting
that?
a win for Team Penske
and then throws up the double birds.
It's his final race with Team Penske in terms of full time.
We did learn over the course of the weekend that while Will Power does not know anything about his future, he will be told very soon after the race at Nashville what is up. Timing wise tells me that it's lights out for Power at Penske.
I would agree based on what's been said.
But I could see a sequence where he wins the race. On the radio, he's told he's done at Penske, and then the double birds come out. I can hope. Not happening, but I can hope.
If you agree or disagree with us, and we had a lot to get to, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media. IndyCar Podcast, the handle on Twitter/X, also on Instagram, on Facebook, search for New Track Record. You can email us your questions, comments, rants, concerns, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Xavier and others for their support. And as always, download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. No mailbag this week. We have just so much to get to, and we got to keep moving forward. So we'll get to news and notes. And Honda addressing their future with IndyCar. They had a presser after clinching the manufacturer's title, and HRC USA President David Salters said, "We love IndyCar," and kept saying, "We love IndyCar" a million times. But ultimately, the thing to take away, we don't really discuss our private businesses in public, so nothing. But they love IndyCar.
I've never tried to read so much into people's comments as in any time Honda talks about its future in IndyCar. And is there any? You monitor the tone and the facial expressions and the word. I don't know. Now, do you think that the decision has been made by Honda one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to think they're back, but that's just me being hopeful. I have no clue what's going to happen. I don't think anyone does except for Honda.
I mean, deep down, you look at the situation and take this week, for example, so much positivity, just for IndyCar, it can't continue. It needs something to really a knife into the tires to really disrupt everything. You hope it's not the case, but by God,
literally
we've been
the
there.
Only negative thing that has happened this season, I feel like after the incredible St. Pete TV ratings, has just been the bad TV ratings thereafter.
Yeah.
A couple races. Then the Indy 500 was a huge high, and then we've just settled into a number for TV. But that's been about it. There's been a lot of positivity. I guess you have the car delayed a year, but that was kind of expected how that was trending.
But we know how this goes.
Yeah.
We've been burned many a time.
Yes. So much positivity.
Something has to go wrong, right? To even out all this positivity. So that's why deep down in my mind, my brain is like, look, you know how this goes, Justin, okay? You know how IndyCar works, is with every step forward, there is a step back at some point. And make no mistake, the loss of Honda would be a considerable step back. So deep down, I feel like that's got to happen because this is just how it goes for IndyCar and its fans.
Yeah, you're probably right. Elsewhere on news and notes items, Remember I always said that the streaming series Road to the IndyCar Championship would happen, not just be 100 days to Indy. Well, the Road to the IndyCar Championship premiering on Fox Nation August 31st, so this Sunday, just in time for the season finale. Justin Wilson, there will be a documentary, Marshall Pruitt and Coforce. They're producing basically at their own expense documentary film celebrating his life, so that's really cool. Elsewhere, you have Team Penske, the first ever Team Penske employee passed away, Karl Kienhofer. He was there from the beginning. Penske's mechanic when Penske was still a driver, worked with Mark Donohue. Obviously, a legendary career for Penske, and obviously one of the pillars of Team Penske, obviously going to be missed as well. Anything else that we missed?
I do not think so. We're heading into the season finale race with, at least on track, not much on the line, but it's all right.
And time for tweets of the week, and we got two. First one from Indy 44. I wonder if they've thought about it, and it's a picture of Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, and one labeled Alex Blow, the other everybody else. Hat tip to Lynn _ IndyCar for sending us that one. And then finally, the other one is Will Buxton. Today in Will's Cultural Tour of America, I waved a checkered flag for a sausage race in the middle of a baseball game. I'm no Aaron Likens, but that was fun. Also, how many sausage races are there in this country? Thanks for having me, Brewers. So they do this at every Brewers game.
They do. Well, he called the weenie race. He waved the checkered flag at the sausage race. Americans, we love our meat, don't we?
We do.
We absolutely do. And have you ever witnessed the sausage race in person?
At a Brewers game? So I've been to the ballpark, but I've not been to a game.
Okay.
So no.
I have not either. But I didn't realize there were 5 of them now. I thought there were 4. I think there were 3 originally. But expanding the field, that's good to see.
Yes,
expansion. I don't know if there are any charters in the sausage race. And you have to buy them. I don't know how that works, but expanded fields is always good.
Yes. All right, time for our random split air driver of the week.
We've talked about this guy a time or two, but we're really going to talk about him in detail now. Mr. Giorgio Pontino.
Hey, he was a split air driver?
He was a split air driver, and I'll tell you why. So in 2005, he raced in the inaugural GP2 Series season for the Supernova team. He also drove in the Indy Racing League for Chip Ganassi Racing in the 2 road course races in 2005. He was a road course specialist.
Oh, I didn't know that, because that would have been when they had Briscoe, Dixon, and Nicholas Manassian, right?
Yes. So the team scaled back to 2 cars for 2006, signing champion Dan Weldon alongside Scott Dixon. That didn't turn out. Pontino had several off-season champ car tests for PKV Racing and MyJack Conquest Racing, but they failed to result in a ride for the season, and Pontino sat out most of the early part of the new season before finding life in the GP2 team. Now, he did not return to IndyCar racing until 2011 with Dreyer and Reinbold. What was that, 3 races, I want to say, with Dreyer and Reinbold in the latter part of the season? And then 1 for Chip Ganassi Racing at Mid-Ohio in 2002. But in terms of talking about split era, the 2 races he did in 2005, Sonoma, where he finished 14th, and Watkins Glen, where he finished 4th. Again, those are the only 2 non-ovals on the schedule. So much like when Boris Said would come in, for NASCAR with the road course
or Marcus
specialist.
Ambrose.
Scott Pruitt, of course, a IndyCar driver, also did some NASCAR. Those were your road course aces in Cup when they had only 2 road course races. Giorgio Pontino was that for Chip Ganassi Racing in 2005. But this guy had plenty of experience racing, whether it was a Super Formula way back when, GP2, of course, Formula 1 in 2004 with Jordan Racing. They were terrible.
Yeah, they were bad.
His top finish with Jordan Racing in 2004 was 13th. at the Nürburgring, which I love saying, Nürburgring. But GP2, obviously IndyCar Super Formula. He did the 24 hours of Spa. Has done a lot, Giorgio Pontano. But as we're talking about him, his 2 starts for Chip Ganassi Racing, or then Target Chip Ganassi Racing in 2005. Sonoma 14th, Watkins Glen 4th. Never did the Indianapolis 500. He is still, amazingly, just 46 years old.
Wow.
Giorgio Pontano. 1 year older, or at least 2 years older than Will Power. And not doing any racing now, but did plenty back in the day. Giorgio Pontano, this week's random split era driver of the week.
So I was wrong. That entry, Darren Manning did races 1 through 10. Jacques Lazier did 11 through 13, 15, and 17. And Pontano filled out the rest, Dixon and Briscoe. And Ganassi was so bad in this era. Dixon switched chassis at one point. In fact, he was in a Delora for race 4, which was at Motegi, but then ran Panos the rest of the year. The rest of the team ran Panos all season. This was a trying time for Chip Ganassi Racing, and that would have been the Toyota days.
Yes.
So that didn't help either.
Not at all. So Giorgio Pontano didn't get much of a chance, but it was a struggle for Target Chip Ganassi Racing in the mid-2000s. And so for him to bring it home 4th at Watkins Glen in the season finale. Well, no, it wasn't the season finale. They had Fontana the week after, but had to feel good for probably one of the better finishes of the season in 2005 for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Yes, indeed. All right, that ends the penultimate episode during the regular season. Hard to believe this is where we're at, but we'll recap the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix next week as the IndyCar season wraps up. For Justin Kinney, I'm Caleb Hatch. Thanks for joining us on New Track Record Podcast.